Okay, very well. Well, welcome then for all the 100 people that made it to the Zoom. The early bird catches the worm, I guess. So happy to have you here, and happy to be at Agile Tour Vilnius. I was not able to make it to the in-person conference, but hopefully next year that will be better. And one disclaimer, I have a terrible cold right now, so my voice is a little bit cracky, but that doesn't stop me from being here with you. And either if you're watching from the office or at home, if you're watching by yourself or with others, I hope you can enjoy this day full of interesting talks. Also, some of my friends will be later on stage, like Sirian Sly and Nancy by Overeem. So it's a great online conference. So I hope you enjoy it. Have fun. Give feedback in the Wova app. And in the Wova app, you can also find the Miro that we are using today. So if you look into the chat of Wova, you can find a Miro to participate. But for the first part, I will give a short introduction. So what we're going to talk about today are the 5P's of personal engagement. And I already saw some responses in the Wova app about what people want to get out of this session. So that's great. I love the interaction already. For you, I have a question that you need to do in the Wova app. And I'm going to ask you, what's the first word that comes up to you when you think about facilitation? So go to the Wova app, look for my session, and then go to the chat and leave in your answers. What is the first thing you think about if you think about facilitation? And I'll grab my phone so I can look at the chat to see your responses. I'll give you a few minutes to do so. So write your answer in the chat. Don't hit send yet. Give you a few moments to do so. I hope everybody found the chat. Okay, that's great. Someone said in the chat, you will need to use some magic to make us hear you. Am I not audible? Don't you hear me?
You are audible. I think we're facing some issues with the participants.
Okay. Alexander, in the chat, I hope I can use that magic so you can hear us, so you can hear me. Okay, if you're in the chat, then hit enter now or click on send so I can see your answers. Might be that some people are using the chat here. Oh, that's great. I see people entering the Zoom, so I imagine that people are still joining that were in the waiting room. Yeah, while we wait on the responses in the chat. So I'm just... Inga, can you... Oh, wait, I'll do it. Oh. Okay. So for everybody who was waiting anxiously to get into the Zoom call because it was full, I welcome you again. We already started. with a question, and the question was, what's the first word that comes up to you if you think about facilitation? I'm going to ask you to put that in the Wova app chat. So that's the same way that you got into this session. There's a chat over there. What's the first word that you can think of if you think about facilitation? And I have to check on my phone if there are responses already. Here we go. Yes. I see observation. I see time box. Thank you, Anu. Thank you, Anna. Vlada says, taking care of meeting to happen. Floralda says, enabling. Holding the space. And for Alexander in the chat, we have figured it out. You can now enter the Zoom. So it has been opened. Okay. So a lot of ideas on what facilitation is. And today I will show you ways that you can use to facilitate and to make it an engaging experience. So let's go. Today I'm your facilitator. I'm a trainer with Xebia Academy and I do a lot of stuff. So that's on this slide over here. More interesting is how I got here. So, and if you're accessing the mural, which is in the chat in Zoom, you can read this. So I don't have to go through this. So I've been. Oh. And for the people who joined later, I have a cold, so sorry for that. I've been teaching all my life. As a student, I had a side job as a dance teacher, teaching kids from 4 to 25, all kinds of dances. And when I went to college and university, I facilitated Microsoft Office trainings. So Microsoft Excel, sharing and teaching about all these difficult functions that you probably never use, and also taught people how to create PowerPoint slides. But that was like maybe 15 or 20 years ago, so imagine. And in my professional life, I started teaching Scrum and Agile. I've been in the Agile domain for 13 years, so I have quite some experience in that. And I also wanted to transfer that to other people. So I started giving trainings. And since 7 years, I am a professional Scrum trainer for scrum.org. It was only 5 years ago that I went to training from the back of the room. And when I did that, I can say that was a life-changing experience, because what I've been doing in my teachings endeavors, I was copying the stuff that my senior colleague was doing, and the games and activities. I was just copying that, and they worked. So that was great. But when I got to the training from the back of the room, I understood why they worked, because that training gave me insights on brain science and neuroscience that were the foundation of creating involving and engaging training sessions. So that learned me a lot about why it worked. So training from the back of the room is a training method based upon neuroscience, how your brain digests information and how you can maximize the learning. And you learn a lot of ways to create engaging trainings. So when I did that, I realized that this brain science, or neuroscience as we call it, you can use it not just in teaching stuff, but also you can use it in your Scrum events, you can use it in all kinds of facilitation opportunities. So that's what I started doing. I used that neuroscience in conference talks, and even this talk is set up according to the principles of training from the back of the room.
Need a glass of water?
Yeah, I have my water here. I'll get it in a moment. Thank you. So having all this knowledge, we started facilitating, we started experimenting, and together with my friend Rosemarijn, we facilitated a lot of talks on this topic, and we saw some things emerging. Sorry. Sorry. And together with Rosemarijn, we saw something emerging, that every time we did facilitation, we saw 5. Well, first it were 4. It were first the 4 P's of personal engagement, and now it's 5 because we thought, oh, we also need this. So if you're doing a session, if you're facilitating a session or a meeting, a sprint review or a sprint retrospective, you want your people to pay attention, right? You want them not to drift off with their brains. You want them to focus. You also want them to participate actively, not just sit back and relax and watch the show, but you want them to be actively engaged. You also want to create the environment of psychological safety, where people can say what they want. Sorry. And using the primacy and recency effect, you can create more sessions that are more engaging and involving from beginning to the end. What the primacy recency effect is, I will share later, but these are, as one of the 5 P's, it's good to know them upfront. And the last thing is play. And I'm not the expert in play. We have Nancy Beers, who's also joining online today. She's the expert in play. But if you want to create involving and engaging sessions, add an element of play. So we start with the first P, personal engagement, that is paying attention. Your brain is kind of lazy when nothing new happens or when nothing different happens. Your brain goes to a kind of a standby mode. Yeah, so your conscious brain kind of goes in stabilization mode or standby mode, and your unconscious brain says, okay, I got this, I'll take it from here, you don't need to pay attention. It's the same like if you drive from home to work every day and you don't and when you get home, you know that you drove down the road, but you did not really pay attention to what was happening. But when there's a detour or when there's an accident, you will have to pay attention. But all the other times, you can just do that on your automatic pilot. But when there's something different, when there's something new, you have to pay attention. So our brain is wired to pay attention to new stuff and to different stuff. So if you know that, you can use that in your sessions. You can use that in your sprint review or meetings that you have. We'll get back to that. People also pay attention to something if it has a meaning to them, purpose to them. So that's why it's good to always start with the end in mind. What is the goal that we're trying to achieve? What is the purpose of what we're trying to do? And then people pay attention, or your brain pays attention to emotion. That can be positive or it can be negative. And when you pay it, when there's an emotion, it might be happy or it might be sad, you remember stuff better and you pay attention to that. If something is boring or mellow, then you won't pay attention to that. But if it's joyous, if it's enjoyable, or maybe it's just plain stupid, you will pay attention because it creates that, it sparkles that emotion. So some examples of that are storytelling. So how can you sparkle emotion by telling a story? You can tell a story that takes people along in your journey, maybe, or you can tell a joke or a riddle that sparkles emotion. Another way to have people pay attention, if something is puzzling them, right? If they have to think about it, if they think, oh, but this is so different than what we're used to, you will pay attention to that. And you want to make your sessions enjoyable. And that's different for everybody. So maybe you bring some candy to your session, or maybe you do it in a nice setting. So find out what your participants think is an enjoyable setting. And for the purpose, think about if you can start your session or event with a meaningful question. What's the first thing that comes up to you when you think about facilitation? Was one of the examples. But also, what are we trying to do today? And why are we in this sprint review? What do we want to get out of it? So start with the goal, start with the end in mind. And now it comes to you. I'm going to ask the people who are on the Miro, and I see already some people there, to think about examples that you might think of if you think about pay attention. How can you get your people to pay more attention? So you can grab a sticky note. The Miro was in the chat in Wova. So if you have an idea, how can you get your people to pay more attention, then add it to the Miro. I see 25 people over here, so that's good. I see I didn't lock everything, so I'm doing that now. So I'll give you 2 minutes to get also to make sure that everybody can participate. I'm just gonna stop presenting for a moment to see what's happening here. See some stuff moving. Let's just, yeah. Gonna grab my timer and some water.
Do you want a cup of tea?
No, it's I love water. Okay. Can you mute me for a moment?
Ja, gooi het eruit. All right.
Great. So we have 45 people on the Miro, so that's great. So we still have 30 seconds if you want to add something to the board. And if you're lost, I'm bringing everyone to me. So. And see more and more people joining the Miro, so that's good. I'll see if I can get some. What do we have? Set clear objectives and agenda. Bring everyone to the room by understanding what's the goal of the meeting. Yeah, be funny. Okay. All participants talk or just participate. Appeal to what's in it for me. Yeah, that's a good one. What's in it for me? To connect to that purpose. Let them lead the session or ask to prepare for some task to do. Try to involve everyone on the team. So here's some great ideas. And this is how it works for me. I said in the beginning, I am your facilitator. And I could not have come up, put on a wig. Okay, great. I could not have come up with all these creative ideas, right? So I'm using the brain capacity of you all to crowdsource this information. So I love the result on this. But we'll continue because we have a few more P's to go. That sounds weird. For instance, this one, participate actively. If you are in a session, you don't want your people just to sit back and soak up information. You want them to think along. And that is whether you're in your sprint review or are you in your sprint retrospective, you don't want to be the only one talking. And you want to encourage them to contribute. You want to encourage them to think along. You want to encourage them to listen and digest the information. It's not just sitting back and let the Scrum Master or the Agile coach or the trainer or the facilitator do all the talking. No, you want to engage them. And there, of course, are multiple ways to do that. Some of them are on the slide. And you want to include everybody. So maybe you can look at liberating structures. 1, 2, 4 all is an example of that, where you first think about the topic individually, then do it in pairs, then with groups of 4, and then you do it all. I love to do this in the daily Scrum, where you don't go from it's your turn, it's your turn, it's your turn, it's your turn. No, we do it differently. We try to make it a very valuable session instead of going round robin. Using these structures will involve and engage everybody. And I think 1, 2, 4 all is a thing that's used so much, also in trainings. And it gives the introvert people first 1 minute, or actually all people, first 1 minute to think of themselves, then in pairs, then in groups of 4, and then everybody. And you want to include everybody. If you are allowed to use collaborative tools like Miro that we are now doing, and Mural or Google Jamboards, or maybe even Microsoft Teams Whiteboard, who knows, that will also help you to have your participants contribute, like you've just witnessed. We see many ideas from all kinds of people on the board. I'm not just putting my opinion there. No, we're harvesting your ideas. So creating that engaging and evolving session where you can use everybody's ideas, not just your ideas. I'll get to the questions. Okay, I see a question. I can respond to it now because else I might forget. Could you explain? Can you go up a little bit, Harold? Could you explain how you're using this approach in Daily Scrum? I mean, you're asking discuss the sprint board in pairs, then in 4, and then all together. How it works? Well, just like you said. Main thing of our Daily Scrum is, are we progressing towards our sprint goal? Are we going to make it, yes or no? That's something that you can think about by yourself. And you can come up with an answer. Yes, we are going to make the sprint goal, or no, we're not, because this and this and this. And you can discuss that in pairs. Are we going to make the sprint goal? Yes or no? Because this of this and this. Do we need help? Hey, I can help you with that. Then in groups of 4. Are we going to reach the sprint goal? Yes or no? Yes or no? Do we need help? Do we have any impediments? So instead of going through that round and have everybody say, this is what I did yesterday, this is what I'm going to do today, and we have some obstacles. No, you create a situation where everybody's involved from the first minute to the last minute, and not just the few minutes that you have to share your progress. So I hope that helps. But I know a lot of people are not used to doing that because they never learned different than doing it in that fashion. But now you have an opportunity where you can include everybody. Getting back to where we were, how can you get your people to participate actively? Well, maybe do it different. And I already saw that as a suggestion on the board. Rotate facilitation. Ask other people to do the sprint review. Ask other people to facilitate the sprint retrospective. And also in different sessions, or if you have like traditional meetings, you can ask someone else to facilitate it. It does not always have to be you. But don't force it on people, right? Don't say, okay, now you're the facilitator. And someone who doesn't really like to do that, so don't force them. But it can be a way to have more people engaged in what you're trying to do. So these are some examples. And now again, we go back to the board. What are your examples to have your people participate actively? What do you do to have everybody chipping in? So that's going to be a 2-minute time box. I'm going to set the timer. Take a sip of water. And you can let your creativity go on the mural. Okay, so 2 minute time box has passed. Let me check out. A silent meeting. That's interesting. I just have because I was talking about this yesterday. We had a Scrum Master in class who had one team who was really into doing these fun things, fun retrospectives, toys on the tables, that kind of stuff. And she had one team who was not like that. So we talked about not everybody likes those super active games, toys, and formats. So also based upon your audience, based upon your participants, you might want to think about, is the thing that I'm trying to do or the thing that I'm trying to facilitate, is it getting the most out of the people? So sometimes if you have an introvert team, you just want to do silent writing or have a silent meeting. You can imagine that for some people, that's like an oasis of, okay, this is really my kind of meeting. So I've seen this answer before, and I really like the idea. And I think for some teams it might work, or for some people it might work. Other things, what you need from me, what I need from you. Ask them to think about in the beginning what they want to take out of the session and how they want to contribute to make it happen. They don't need to share it. And this is also connecting to the purpose and the meaning that we talked about before. So you see, we say it's 5P's, but they're all interconnected. And there's no black and white. There's always a gray area in between. And the 3 before me, have the team talk before I have to say something. I love that structure, or I love that approach. Having 3 team members say something before you as a facilitator or as a Scrum Master or as Agile Coach says something. And also be aware, be respectful for the silence. And sometimes silence is just good. And sometimes as Scrum Master or Agile Coach or the facilitator, it's a challenge because you want to fill in that silence. But giving people to react, and also for the introvert people to maybe first think and then say something, I think that's a very good approach for having everybody to participate actively. So we'll go to the next one. Next one is psychological safety. You want to create an environment where everybody feels included, where everybody feels safe to give feedback, and to ask questions, where we have a respectful way of talking and collaborating with each other. One of the important things is to create that connection or that inclusion is to connect people with each other. So get to know each other. And also in an online session or in the in-person sessions, get to know each other. Get to know the person behind the screen. And not just, okay, I'm looking at the screen and Alexander is here. No, I know that Alexander does this and this and this and this. And I know that he likes this and this and this. Get to know the people that will build your connections. And that will include your team members or your participants in what you're trying to do. Breathing and movement is also important for, maybe it's more physical safety. If people feel anxious or worried in a session, like a sprint review, you had an awful sprint and you did not reach a sprint goal and a few things were not done, and people feel anxious to come to the sprint review because, hey, all the stakeholders are here, then it might help if you add some breathing and movement to that session. Why? Because the stress in your body will build up adrenaline. And the way to get rid of that is to move around. So that movement kind of absorbs the adrenaline. So and you can start moving. You can move around to decrease that adrenaline. And also for breathing, it helps to get a steady breathing if you, for instance, talk. Well, in my case, it doesn't help today, but normally, if you would breathe in very deep, it will help you to relax. It might also work in a daily scrum where it's the last day of the sprint and things are heated and there's a lot of pressure on all developers. It might help if you add some breathing exercises or add some movement to your daily scrum. So you want to create that environment where it's safe to contribute and where it's safe to learn and safe to collaborate. A few examples of these are yes. Let's go to the next frame. Oh, was I not presenting? Yeah, so for movements, I encourage you to use the whole room. If you're doing sprint review, have people add sticky notes over there to the board, have your presentation over there. And so not just be it like a theater where you look at the developers sharing what they have done. So let it be let everybody go through the room. The right to pass or silent writing, that encourages people that are not usually the first to speak up. Silent writing, just write some stuff down without talking to anybody else. And the right to pass is something that we say, hey, for everything that we do, you have to right to pass. I'm not going to force you to answer. I'm not going to force you to talk. I'm not going to force you into anything. For everything that we do, you have to right to pass. And some people say, oh, but are people then not passing every time? No, they will not. At a certain moment, they will be joining the conversation, or they will be joining the game, or they will be joining whatever you're trying to do. But give people that opportunity that they have the right to pass. And making connections, one of the examples I like is kindred spirits, where you say, hey, find someone who has the same eye color as you, or find someone who has the same plant in the background as you if you're doing online sessions. And then you pair those people up. They already have a connection because they have the same eye color, but then you can start, you can have them talking to each other and not saying, oh, you go talk to that person. No, they have to find their own pair. Before we go into your examples, I want you to get up from your chair if you're sitting. If not, then and you're standing already, then it's easy to follow because we're going to do a short body break. We've been in this for half an hour, so I'm going to ask you to do any kind of stretch that you like. And if you don't feel like that, the only thing you have to do is walk around your chair. So make a circle around your chair. But if you feel like it, just do some stretching movements. Why? Because I say so. No, that's not the case. Because we've been sitting for 30 minutes, and what your body does, your body is kind of lazy. So it tries to save energy. So if you have been sitting for a longer time, it says, okay, I'm going to save energy. I'm going to take it down a notch. And you might feel sleepy or not paying so much attention anymore. And if you then do a body break, it will increase your blood flow, which will increase the oxygen level that goes through your brain, and that will help you to pay attention better and feel more energetic. So I hope you've done this with me. And I will rewatch the recording to see if you have done that. But for all people who've done this, thank you. And it can be a real benefit for you and also for everybody who's joining the online sessions today later. Just build in a body break for yourself because it will make you feel better afterwards. And try to do that every 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. So getting back to where we were, I was looking for examples of, or sorry, I'm going to ask you to look for examples how you can build psychological safety. So keeping those three things in mind: connections, inclusions, and how do you create a safe space? That's over here. So if you're on the Miro, or if you were on the Miro, go back to the Miro. How do you create psychological safety? And again, I'll give you 2 minutes on my analog clock because I love it.
One.
Yes, very well. So we have some good examples over on the Miro. Interesting. Share personal example, story, context. We have 1 to 4 all, of course. Incognito mode in Miro. Should we do that now? By being vulnerable yourself, reacting to the signs of body language. Yeah, that's a great one. Also very important in the online environment. How are people sitting? How are people looking? If you are like this, well, that tells you something about how that person is feeling. You might want to address that. Maybe not in the full session, but maybe afterwards. Not being pushed to do something. Yeah, so all good examples of how to create psychological safety. And going to the next one. The primacy recency effect. And yes, that is a camel. The camel represents the attention span, or the yeah, let's say let's call it attention span. That's easier. Of people, of human beings. You usually pay attention. The prime time of your brain is in the first 20 minutes of your session. So by now, we might be in the downtime. If you look at that picture on the right, And your brain might be feeling not so involved anymore, not so engaged anymore, but I hope to get it up to prime time again. So the primacy recency effect describes an effect of your brain where research has shown that the human brain is able to remember stuff better. If there's a list of things that you need to remember, you probably remember the first things best and the last thing best. Everything in between might not be very clear or might not be very well remembered. I'm a little bit distracted by my moving mirror. I think I did not lock everything. Well, so sorry for that. And if you know that your brain is like on the best capacity in the beginning and at the end of a session, you might want to use that. So that's why I start my session with asking you the question about facilitation. I don't start my sessions with talking about me because that's less interesting. I want you to think about already what facilitation means to you, as you want to make the beginning memorable and the end memorable. For example, if you are doing groceries and you have to remember a grocery list, what do you remember best? Well, probably the things that you put in at the top of your list and at the bottom of your list. And that's how your brain works. So maybe if you are remembering a phone number, for instance, and you struggle with that, usually you have the first numbers and the last numbers, right? But the things in between, they are more difficult to remember. Or if you go on a holiday or have gone on holidays, what you remember very well is how it started and how it ended. So how did you get there? How was the travel? And how was the end? And of course, you make memories in between, but those things will be locked in your brain best. And if you know that, you don't want to waste your time in your session or in the talk that you're doing or in your sprint review. You don't want to waste your time on going through housekeeping stuff or non-valuable stuff. Oh, go here. So what I do in my sessions, I always try to make short segments. So we have the effect of primacy recency every time. So every 20 minutes, we have a fun thing, memorable thing at the beginning and something at the end. And so chop up your sessions, like your sprint review, into smaller parts. And so you have those beginning and ends multiple times. On the Miro, I put some resources, interesting resources that back this theory up, the primacy recency effect. But for now, as a facilitator, it's good to make memorable beginnings and memorable ends, because people will remember that. At the end, for instance, you can summarize and celebrate what you've learned or what you're going to do, and begin and start in a fun way. So knowing that, the primacy recency effect, what could you do to make use of that effect? And so what can you do to have your people working on that prime time of your brain? I'm going to ask you to fill that in the Miro, and I'll give you 2 minutes. So what can you do to use the primacy recency effect? You remember things first, and you remember things that come last. Yeah, so great ways to end the sessions and make conclusions of the meeting, make the short wrap up, always asking to summarize, personal key takeaways from the workshop. At start, give an overview, at the end, summarize important points. Killing my clock. Sticky notes, feedback board, or mini satisfaction form. So great ideas. And if you want to continue reading, there's 2 resources on the primacy recency effect on the board. So keep an eye on that. Last P, is the one of play. And that one, Nancy can tell you much more about this, but we use a lot of play in our trainings and in our sessions. We use games, we use formats, and even simple games like this one that's on the screen, having these blocks of the Scrum events. What do we inspect? What do we adapt? Can help to digest in a training session, to help digest the information better. So there has been a lot of research done. Play makes people, well, less fatigue, there's less boredom, less stress and less burnout, and there's higher job satisfaction, higher sense of competence, and higher creativity. So you might want to add some playfulness to your sessions, to your sprint review, to your sprint retrospective, to your daily scrum, or any other session or meeting that you have. And it does not have to be that you're going to play the whole Dungeons and Dragons game or whatever. No, it can be very simple, small games that contribute to the goal that you're trying to reach. So some examples of that, if you want to maybe do a simple game like what's on the screen. It's called What the Duck. Well, you have to bring some rubber duckies then with you, but What the Duck is about asking questions. You will have to prepare some rubber ducks, put them on the table, and put a question on the bottom of it. What did you get out of this session? Or what was the most valuable? Everyone picks a rubber duck and reads the question. And that's a very small way of making it more playful, rather than just having a slide on your PowerPoint with 5 questions. Also, adding things like cards or things that people can touch will also make it more alive and more playful. And another thing that I like to do is collect and share. So let people collect, I don't know, 5 points for bringing in a great, let's say, sprint goal question or sprint goal addition, or make a game out of it. I used to have a team at one of the big supermarkets, and you could earn points for every activity that you did with your team. So we had a Scrum team, and one of the activities was define your sprint goal in 6 words. And if you were able to do that, you would get 10 points. And those 10 points were actually 10 ping pong balls that would go into a phase. So you could check out, hey, these are the points that we have. And another example would be create a team canvas. If you have created a team canvas, you get 20 points or 20 balls, and they would go into the phase. And that kind of created a competition between the teams, because when your phase was full, you could get a team outing or a team dinner or something. And of course, all teams were able to do that, but it was nice to see that they were kind of competing to each other. And we did not have anyone stealing ping pong balls from one phase to another, so that didn't happen. But it was a fun way. So playing a little competition, having a leaderboard on something, will make it more fun and playful. So I'm going to ask you, this is the final one, to ask for your examples. How do you bring play to work? How do you make your sessions more playful? So again, 2 minutes on the clock. Here we go. This is the last P. So we're on time. So very curious, what plays do you use or how do you add playfulness? Yeah, great. So I see some nice ideas. Rory story cubes. Sometimes meet in the kids' room at the office. I asked Maria. Maybe I should also ask Maria. I'm very curious who Maria is. Let the team use memes, GIFs to express themselves where possible. Yeah. Creating sticky Zaras. Dinosaur are of post-it notes, remote or live. That's great. So if you have anything else that you want to share, please do that. At the end of today, I will make a PDF of the whole board that I can share in the Wova app. So we have all these great ideas all together. So thank you all for sharing. And I'm continuing to the next slide. So if you want to follow me, I'm over here. So I hope that in this session, I don't know how you did before, but I hope that you now understand some reasons behind some of these P's. How do you create personal engagement? How do you create involvement of people? And of course, there's many aspects that are in the facilitation space, but I hope you now have an idea of how to improve your facilitation and how you can create better personal engagement. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set the clock for 1 minute, and let's use the Zoom chat instead of the Wova chat, because then you have to switch around. I have a challenge for you. I want, in 1 minute, 20 takeaways from this talk in the Zoom chat. I believe that's possible, right? To add things in Zoom chat. From this talk, by 20 different people. So if you're ready, I'm gonna set the time now, and here we go. 1 minute, 20 takeaways. Counting. Let's see if we can beat the clock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on. 5. 30 seconds. 6, 7, 8. Come on back. 8, 9, rubber ducks. 10. Who types fast? Who types fast? 12. Silence. 13. 14. 15. Go on, we're beating the clock. Leaderboard. 17, 18. People leaving. No. Get up. Yeah. We got it. Yes, we got 20 takeaways. And some people left. I'm sorry. That's also feedback. Get rid of the boredom. Thank you very much for adding that into the chat. I'm happy that we got at least 20 takeaways from this session. And I'm happy too if you would want to give me some feedback. There is something that I wrote. I wrote the Scrum Master playbook together, and if you want, you can access or enter the raffle for the Scrum Master playbook through this link. But I will quickly skip this because I know that the Agile Tour Vilnius also has a feedback form. So if you want to give feedback, please do that through the Agile Tour Vilnius feedback form. And you will, obviously you can access the raffle, but let's take some time at a different moment. For now, last thing that I'm going to ask you, which of the 5 P's have you been seeing used in this session? Going to ask you to choose an emoji and place it close to one of the 5 P's. So if you are on the mural, where we have around 30 people, you will find some emojis and you can drag them to the piece that you think we hit. Go. I already see one. Pay attention. That's good. Oh, here we go. It was lagging. Well, that's great, everybody. Thank you all for your input and bearing with me with my cold and my coughs. I'm very sorry for that. I'm happy that we had all the 5 P's, and I want to thank you, everybody, for joining my session. And I actually had a GIF here. Oh, cute. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any feedback, do it through the Agile Tour Vilnius QR code, which I think we'll be showing after this talk. I wish you all the best in the next online sessions. Remember to do those body breaks, and maybe we'll see each other next year in person in Vilnius without a cold, feeling better, hopefully. And I just want to say thank you so much for your participation and your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelien, so much. Even though we still have some questions on Huva, maybe you want to hit one?
Yeah. Do you want to share it?
I selected one. So, there's a question from Greta Marcinkiewicz. Could you share your experience? What was the worst meeting you had?
Well, I've had some worse meetings, but for me, the worst meetings are when there's someone, one person doing the talking and expecting everybody to join or to participate, while that person is a person that really likes to listen to themselves talk. Hence, it's difficult to get into or to participate, and it's not facilitated in any way. So I should say this is also a time when we were still doing traditional ways of working. We had a meeting where all the team leads and the test leads and whatever leads came together. And one person was like the chairman or the chairperson who ran ran that meeting, and he would appoint people saying, okay, you. Tell me about this and this and this. And then that person would report to the chairperson, and then the next person, kind of like a daily scrum, but in a worse way, in a worse way. And then, but that was in the early years of my career, and I was how do you call that, project management support person. So I was typing and I was registering what they were saying, but I think that was really one of the worst meetings. Sometimes I still see at conference talks or at presentations that there's no engagement with the audience at all. So it's just 60 minutes of sharing interesting stuff, but no interaction. And I know that from the training from the back of the room, that your brain, after 20 minutes, and your body, they just disconnect. So what should you do to keep that engagement and involvement? Tell something funny, or tell an emotional story, and that will lure people in again and keep people awake. Some people are very well at doing that. Other people just share their story for 60 minutes and without having attention for their audience. Sorry, that was a longer answer than I anticipated.
Okay, good. Thank you, Evelien, so much. I really hope you will get well soon. Thank you for amazing presentation. For everybody, a reminder to leave a feedback on Menti and to scan the same code that Evelien showed you, so you can have like double the amount. For the others, I really want to apologize for technical issues that we had in the beginning. Now both Zoom and Whova sessions are aligned and you can join. For the next session that we'll have at 10:30, please join the other session in Whova platform. This one will be